Hi guys, and welcome back to World of Tanks, and tonight I'm going to be taking a look at the Bogatyr KV-220-2. It's a tier 5 Russian premium heavy tank. It's preferential matchmaking, so it only sees up to tier 6, and it is a very heavily armoured vehicle. Now, the KV-222 has been in the game for a while. For quite a while, although it is quite a rare tank. I've only ever seen it in bundles, and I think in the Founders Pack I've never seen it on sale on its own. And the Bogatyr, basically what it was a KV-220 with this paint job that was given as an exclusive, like a limited time exclusive with PlayStation 4s, like a World of Tanks themed PS4 bundle in Russia, but now we've got it in the store on its own, and the paint job is actually, I think, one of the camouflages from the Bogoteer ship in World of Warships, but I could be wrong about that one. Now also, as you can see in my garage, there is the Honour T28E and the Glory IS-5. Now, they didn't go onto my account, they didn't get credited on. They're actually loan tanks. I'm lucky enough to get those on loan, but they didn't go until very late on, so I didn't get a chance to do any footage. In fact, it was probably within the last sort of hour that they went on. So I've not had a chance to get any footage with those today. I will try and do some over the weekend. But the Honour T28E is basically a T28 with the F30 Top Gun from the KV-1, and I kind of think it looks like something that should be in Thomas the Tank Engine. So if you don't know what that is, it's a kids program from over here. I don't know if it's sort of spread anywhere else in the world, but yeah, I do kind of think it should be in Thomas the Tank Engine. And it kind of looks like it says knob on the side as well, even though I know that is Cyrillic. But anyway, back to the Bogatyr. Right, very tough tank. A basic description of it is the hull from the KV-3 up at tier 7 with the stock turret and gun from the KV-1 down at tier 5. So you can imagine that is a fairly tough tank. And yeah, I've blocked quite a bit of damage, you know, especially for the tier as well. It's let's have a look what it is. Bonuses. We get 690 health points, or hit points, should I say. You get a 47% silver bonus and a 45% XP bonus. So, you know, it's fairly good at crew training, and, you know, it's not bad at making money either. Its standard price is 2,300 gold. That's what it lists it as in the Tankopedia, but it's in the store at the minute in a couple of different bundles, and will be coming in a timed release in sort of cheaper bundles, which is, you know, it is very, very frustrating. So if you don't want excuse me, if you don't want to pay the full price for the tank, you're going to have to wait to actually pick it up. Now this isn't a loaner, this one is mine. I've wanted the KV-220 for a while because it's always looked like quite a fun tank. Now, gun wise, it's 76mm Zis 5. Slightly less rate of fire than the KV-1 gets with it. That gets a 4-second reload. This has got a 4.29 second reload. So it is slightly less on the rate of fire. You get 99 pen and 110 damage, and then you get 121 on your premium, and then 38, 156 on your standard ammunition. 2.29 second aiming time, which is as near as damn it the same as it is on the KV-1, and 0.46 accuracy, again, pretty much there. You get a 20-degree hull traverse, which is kind of slow, a little bit slower than a fully upgraded KV-1, and 22 degrees on the turret with a quite a poor 310 meter view range, and again quite a poor signal range of 360 meters. It is a very tough tank though, you know, there's got to be compromises somewhere. The view range is terrible, but it's the same as a standard KV-1. Now, that brings into question sort of equipment. You could put coated optics on just to bring your view range up to roughly on par sort of average for the tier. But this thing, to be honest, you're going to be up front most of the time anyway, so there are arguments for and against. I did have them on for a while, decided to take them off and put vents on, and I prefer the vents on it, so that's why I've gone for a gun lane drive, a gun rammer and vents. But like I say, you could go for thingy if you want coated optics instead of the vents. Now, your shells, 56 for your standard armour piercing, 2,400 for your APCR, and 56 for your high explosive. Now, you are going to have to take quite a few APCR, even though it only does see up to tier 6. There was a point, I was struggling to pen a KV-1 through the tracks and into the hull. Not a great deal of range, maybe 200 meters, something like that. So you do have to really aim your shots with it, but you do get a skill. Now you can earn the Bogatyr, that's what the op is at the minute, and whether you earn it or buy it, you'd get the skill on the crew regardless, so it doesn't matter whether you earn it or buy it. And basically what it does, well, on the portal, on the website, it said that it basically has a percentage chance to negate the effects of range on the penetration of your shell. If you actually look at the skill itself in the crew bit, where are we? It says that it decreases the effect of range on the penetration ability of fired rounds. So I'm not quite sure whether it just basically has a blanket decrease, you know, like maybe a 5% decrease on range on the penetration of your shells, or whether it's, you know, it's got a certain percentage chance to negate the effects. I don't know. The website said one, that says the other. I'm probably going to go with what it says in game, to be honest, and sort of it seems to indicate that it has a sort of percentage decrease on range affecting your penetration. But anyway, there you go. Now I've kept that crew in it, but skill wise, repairs, swap it for Sixth Sense, train repairs again. You want clutch braking, you want off-road driving on this, possibly smooth ride as well, because you can just keep moving and shooting. Situational awareness to try and improve your really quite pathetic view range, and then just sort of branch out from there as you really see fit. Now let's get into the modules. You get a 650 horsepower engine, which gives you a power to weight ratio of 10.46, which I'm not quite sure because it's a long time since I've been in the KV-1, but I think that's possibly about the same as the KV-1 when it's fully upgraded, maybe even slightly better. It's not as good as the Capture KV-1, but that's got 100 extra horsepower, but don't forget this has got a lot of extra weight to cart about. And the engine is massive and spreads out throughout the inside of the tanks. There are lots of places to try and shoot and damage the engine, and one of these with a damaged engine is not much fun. Same as, yeah, well, KV-1 with a damaged engine, if you've ever had that, no fun at all. And if you have a damaged engine and a dead driver, you are in trouble. In fact, you're basically just a bunker then. But you've got a forward top speed of 33 kilometers an hour, and it can pick up quite a pace going downhill, and it's quite good for ramming as well. Reverse speed of 10, which is quite low, but only a 15% chance of fire. Now with your gun, you do get 24 degrees of gun elevation, and a not bad depression actually of -8. You don't normally get very decent depression on Soviet vehicles, so that's quite a nice surprise. So yeah, -8 on the gun depression. Big old tracks, but there are lots of gaps through the tracks, but don't forget they will act as spaced armour as well. Turret on top. Radio is down in the bottom left hand side of the hull. Ammunition blocks, there's a big one down in the base of the hull, down on the hull floor, which you can get to through the tracks. And if you're looking at the idler wheels on the top, it's the second one back, and if you sort of aim just below that, anywhere either side of it, you've got a chance of hitting the ammo rack in there. Otherwise go for the sides of the turret, and to be honest, that's the best place to go for on this. That is essentially your weak spot at any sort of distance. It is the turret. We'll get to that in a moment. Now crew, you've got 5 in here. The commander gunner loaded up in the turret, and then you've got the driver and assistant driver / machine gunner down in the hull itself. Armour wise, don't forget this is a tier 5 and it does have a hell of a lot of armour. Concealment as well while we're here, 0.14 stationary, 0.08 on the move, so it is big and it is easy to see. It's not very easy to hide, but anyway, hull armour, 120mm on the front and 100 on the sides and the rear, and this is at tier 5. And the turret, which, like I say, the turret is the sort of weak spot on this, but it's still not that weak, with 90 on the front, 75 on the sides and the rear. So again, like I say, not quite as good as the fully upgraded KV-1, but not far off. But it is kind of stock. But let's have a look at the actual figures. Well, 1 to 20mm, your tracks fall into that. Like I say, they will act as spaced, but there is a lot of gaps through there. They just go straight through to the hull. Is there anything else that falls into that? No, the gun. That's about it really. 21 to 30, the rear portion of the hull, underside of the turret, and the underside of that overhang on the rear. 31 to 50, the front of the hull floor, the top of the turret and the top of the engine deck, in fact the whole top deck of the vehicle. 71 to 90, the whole turret just sort of falls into that category, gun mantle and all. The sloped upper glacis also falls into that, and if you're close enough, or you can shoot down at it, that's the bit you want to be hitting. So if you can get close enough to shoot down onto that sloped upper glacis, it is the easiest, well, an easier part to sort of pen this on the front if you are struggling. And there is that strip across the back as well. It does have a bit of a curve to it, but not much. So if you shoot at one of these from the back, go for the upper portion rather than the lower portion. 91 to 120 is just the rest of it. It's just flat, straight round, whatever it says on the tin. So 120 on the front, 100 on the sides, 100 on the rear at that point. And yeah, I mean, I think I blocked about just over 4,000 damage in this down at tier 5, which is, you know, that's a lot of damage at tier 5 to block. So it is very, very tough. So, like I say, the if you just can't pen it, then if you can get close enough to go for that sloped glacis, do so. Otherwise, if you can't get through the front of the turret, because it is quite a thick and sloped gun mantle, try and get around the sides. But it's the turret you've got to go for on the KV-220 and the Bogatyr. Shoot the turret. It's the easiest place to pen it. Anyway, enough of me rambling on. Let's get into the replays and see how it actually handles. Right, so here we are for the first of the replays. It's a tier 5 match, and you will find that you do mostly get into tier 5 matches in this. I've not had loads in it today. I've basically just done the ASOP, which was get 20,000 XP. And I'd say I was in tier 6 matches, maybe 2, 3 out of, yeah, probably a couple of matches. So, yeah, not being in tier 6 very often. When you are in tier 6, there are things that will give you a good beating, because your armour's not quite as effective up at tier 6. So you do have to stay back a little bit more, or try and side scrape. But the problem with that is, with side scraping, obviously your turret's weak, or weaker. And the problem with staying back is your accuracy is not very good, and neither is your penetration. Now, things like OIs, you've got no hope of penning them from the front. You're going to have to get around the flank of them, so you're going to have to track them and try and get around the side, or try and attack them when, you know, they're focusing on somebody else. That sort of thing. M6s from the front as well can be very, very tricky. You've got to go for the weak spots. Even T1 heavies can be a bit tricky from the front for your standard ammunition as well. So do bear that in mind. This, you know, it's a very well armoured tank, but not a particularly well armed tank. Now, in this match, this is the very first match I think I played in it, and I just decided to go for it just to see what it can do, what it can't. You know, just thought, screw it, let's go all out and have a bit of fun. So, I mean, like I say, the gun is underwhelming at times, but this is quite good for ramming. So I think that one, I can't think what it's called, controlled collision, controlled impact, I think it is. That'd be a good one to get on this. Now you can see there, having a bit of trouble with the T14, just penning him. Found a couple of places, got him on the side though now. And I was just going to go in for the last bit of a ram, but somebody took him out. Now, I did no video last night as well. Sorry, I nearly forgot about that. I do apologise. No video last night. Basically, that was with the update. We had to download the client again because the client got reset. Otherwise, basically the installed file on your system would have been about 70 gig. So that's why everybody had to download basically the game again, which made it about 35, 36 gig instead of 70. But because that took a while, and obviously because of the time that the update sort of happened, my plan was to do Road to Tier 10 yesterday, but because of the update, I was going to do a World Warships video, and a couple of World of Tanks in there, but the replay system for World Warships just stopped working, unfortunately. It was recording, but I couldn't actually open them and use them properly, so I don't know what was going on with that. Now at this point, like I say, I've just charged in. The KV-1S finishes me off because he's using high explosive, so the splash damage was enough just to take me out. But another reason I've also done this video is because even though the KV-220 and the Bogatyr, you know, well, not so much the Bogatyr, but the KV-220 itself is an older tank. Like I say, I don't know about on Xbox, but on PlayStation 4 you really don't see that many. And I have seen endless amounts of people just shooting at the hull, trying to shoot at the front, trying to go for the driver's hatch, that sort of thing, and not going for the turret, or trying to get the side of the turret. So that's another reason why I've done this video, just to try and sort of spread the word of the turret is the weaker part of this, and a lot of the time for tier 4s and 5s it's pretty pointless even attempting to go for the hull, especially at the front. I'm not saying don't, like I say, there are times, you know, if you get close enough, go for that slope for glacis. But as you saw in that last match, didn't do a tremendous amount of damage. Blocked about 2,000. Now, most of the matches of this have sort of averaged about 800 to 1,000 damage per match, and that's because, one, it's a bit slow, it can be a bit sluggish. It's not too bad when it gets going, but it can be a bit sluggish, especially going uphill, so the fight can get away from you. I had a match on Sand River earlier where the fight just got away from me. Didn't really, you know, I shot at everything that was there. Had a bit of trouble penning the KV-1, but the fight just sort of went away from me a bit and I couldn't catch up. So yeah, most of them. And the other side of it is obviously the pen on the gun a little bit low, so if there's a few sort of the tougher tanks on the enemy team, you can struggle to pen them, and you know, you can have to fall back on your APCR quite a bit in that situation. So yeah, you know, most times average maybe 800,000, sometimes a little bit more, as you saw in that last match. However, this one was a little bit different, and I thought I'd include it because it just, you know, it was just one of those matches. It just happened, and it was only sort of towards the end of it that I realised really sort of how many kills I was on, etc. And it didn't even really seem, I know it sounds, you know, I don't want to sound big-headed and pompous, but it didn't really seem that difficult, because the hull of this thing is so tough. It really didn't seem that hard. You know, sometimes you sort of, you know, by the end of a match like that, with a result like that, you're sort of sweating and your heart's pounding and what have you, and it, you know, it was a close call and you've really had to use a lot of skill, and you know, you've really had to be on the ball with it. But with this tank, because the hull is so tough, it sort of didn't really seem that hard. And like I say, I don't want to sort of belittle it or anything, or like I say, sound big-headed, that, you know, saying, oh, I'm this awesome player. But the tank just helped out. I mean, look, I'm going straight down here, the shots are just either bouncing off or they're just getting eaten by the tracks. I'm just going for the ram, put a shot in and finish him off with a ram kill, pull back, and you know, I'm just sat here, just, you know, either my track, like I say, tracks are eating them or they're just bouncing off. Go for the T46, is it? The preview window is a little bit small, so it's a bit tricky to see. Managed to take him out. There's a KV-1S up there. The M8A1, he disappeared around the corner and he's been dealt with. So I'm going to head up this way and try and deal with the KV-1S. And see what I can see now. I think another heavy. Yep, there he is. Just popped up on the map behind me. And with me going uphill, I'm exposing the top deck. So I'm just expecting a couple of shots going into there or the back of my turret at the moment. And I'm just wanting to get something a bit more solid in between us. And then another heavy pops up. I think that's heavy, is it? No, another tank pops up in cap anyway. And again, I'm thinking of going for the ram on the KV-1S, but with the turn circle, with the full traverse. I couldn't actually turn in time to give him a good hit. So just tracked myself, I think I tracked him, but again, he was just bouncing. This KV-1S does not have the howitzer, thankfully. So just a bit of an angle to it. And he's not got the gun depression to get down and shoot at my sort of weak slope up the glacis either. So now it's just a bit of a pushing match. I've not quite got the gun depression to get down to shoot at the back of his engine, but he very kindly sort of thinks, I've had enough of this, Starts driving away, and this tracks eats it, of course. But I'm able to finish him off at last. And then another KV-1S decides to come and have a go. I knock his tracks off, and again was going for the ram, but I get tracked. And I've only taken a very, very small amount of damage, 690 health. I'm on 673, 2. So the DW2 just bouncing away there. I was going for the tracking shot so that I could just keep him pinned there and keep putting the shots in. But now I'm going to have to chase him up the hill a bit. And this is what I mean, and it just sort of, this tank sort of made it quite easy. Here comes the DW2. I managed to set him on fire and just let him burn to death. Now, I have seen and I have noticed those little flashes of sort of after image that keep popping up. I do apologise, there is definitely something wrong with my capture card. I've realised today, especially seeing as the lights aren't coming on anymore on it, which they should do. That was quite a lucky shot on that Churchill there. The accuracy on this is awful, but it is Russian, so every now and again, yep, the hand of Stalin comes up from the depths of hell and guides your shell to its target. So yeah, back to the capture card. Yeah, I am going to have to either go back to my old one or try and return this and get a different one or something, because something's definitely not right. Now, I've got some shells coming in from over there somewhere. Remember, this is the crew that came with this, so all I've got is that skill that reduces the effective range on the pen, and a partially trained repair skill. No sixth sense, nothing else. And now there's me and a medium left. I think it's either a Ripper or a T1, a Ripper or an M4A2E4, the normal version of the Ripper. Now I know there's a KV-1 somewhere over this way. I think there's a T-34, a Type T-34 knocking about, and I did check, and the tank destroyer is an AT-2 who has managed to get into a position where he can put shots into the back of me. And he put one into the back of the turret, I think another one went into the back of the hull. I don't know if the T-34 or whatever it was managed to get any hits. But I'm now going at the KV-1, and again I'm going for the same sort of place on his front, which is slightly weaker, which is that slope upper glacis, and I managed to take him down. Now just wait for my tracks, and there we go. And we've got the medium and the AT-2 now. The AT-2 is not a quick tank, so if we can find this medium and take care of him, we should be able to then deal with the AT-2, and it's a fairly simple matter, just tracking him and getting around him, because even at sort of range, going for the weak spots, one, the accuracy on this thing, going for those, reliably hitting that commander's hatch is going to be a pain in the arse, and two, the pen on this is pretty crap, so penning that commander's hatch is going to be a pain in the arse, and that's when you hit it. Well, if and when you hit it, and that's when the AT-2 makes his presence known. Just as I'm going up the hill to try and deal with the medium, I do go for the weak spot. The medium that was with me has been taken out, so I'm going to pull backwards while it's still bouncing. The turret is fairly small on this, so it will be a little bit harder for him to hit me when I'm moving. The T-34's come back round, and I'm going to try and take him out. Now I've put something solid in between myself and the AT-2. I do miss with that shot, but he's just driven into a bit of a blind alley, or a dead end. And I'm just manoeuvring, watching the camera. That's why I've used the auto lock on. I really shouldn't have, because that one bounced. So I'm going to aim up properly and slow traverse, but get there in the end. And now it's just a case of hopefully tracking the AT-2. Like that was quite nice. Getting past him, and with the thickness of the side armour and the angle, he's just going to bounce, and I can just put it through the side. In fact, I decide to get around the rear and basically go for the tracking shot again, but luckily I did have RNG on my side in this match, I set him on fire and he burns out. So I was quite happy with that. But again, it just... the armour on the hull of that thing is ridiculous. And even with that gun, I would edge towards a little bit OP with that tank. But I came out of that with 2,600 damage done, 4,200 blocked, high caliber, an ace tanker, Radley-Walters Devastator, and a top gun. So quite happy with that match. Now, do bear in mind with the money and with the XP that there is the op-on with the Bogatyr at the minute. If you've got it, you do get double silver and double XP. So halve that for your sort of standard rounds when that double XP is gone. But there you go, the Bogatyr KV-220. I would definitely say it is worth grinding out those points to earn this. It is quite a good, fun tank, and even though the turret is weaker, it still, you know, it still gives tier 4s and 5s a lot of trouble to pen your turret. So yeah, it's very tough, and yeah, I would almost say edging towards sort of OP, even though these are sort of more average matches that I've had in this today. But hopefully I'll be bringing you more footage of this. Anyway, there you go. I hope you've enjoyed that. I'll bring you footage of the other two tanks in my garage over the next few days. So until then, take care out there, and I'll catch you next time. See you later.